what you make of the appointments, the first 3 appointments that have been made.
I have told people, those who care to listen, that John Dramani Mahama is a grand master. He knows when to move the chips and which positions to place his chips to be able to deliver an effective game. He wants to win the match. And to win the match, he must deploy his best. And we're seeing glimpses of how he intends to play the game. And so I'm not surprised at all. Clearly, if you look at Fuseini as Deputy Minister for Finance, he executed his task very, very well. In fact, if they say that a person has understudied his minister, then Fuseini will be among those who, when they were given the mandate to help the minister to execute his task, they not only supported the minister, but they also learned a lot from that responsibility that they were given. I worked with Fuseini, Dr. Fuseini, when he was deputy minister, very closely as Minister for Roads and Highways. And I can say without any fear of contradiction that he is somebody who is up to the task. I also worked with him in Parliament as the chairman, the ranking member of the Finance Committee when we went into opposition. He was a torment in the flesh of the NPP. And he was so incorruptible that they had to come out with the accusation of causing financial loss to be able to divert his attention from his work as ranking member of finance. In fact, when he was elevated to the minority leader, we saw what he was capable of. So clearly, Dr. Fuseini is a man of many parts, and I'm sure he's going to bring the collective experience he's gained as Deputy Minister for Finance, as ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, and as minority leader and presently majority leader of Parliament to bear on his tax and responsibility as Finance Minister. As for John Jinapo, we cannot say much about him. Or what we can say is that from the time he went to the Ministry of Energy as Deputy Minister of Energy in charge of power, up to the time that he was almost a de facto Minister of Power when Dr. Kobna Donko resigned from his position, into Parliament as minority ranking member on energy. Up to this point, he has demonstrated a remarkable understanding of the energy situation in this country. And I'm sure he will bring that understanding to his portfolio as Minister of Energy and help move us from the challenges that currently bedevil the Ministry of Energy and Ghana as a whole. My lecturer, my friend, my colleague, Dominic Ayeni, when I went back to the University of Ghana to read my master's degree in natural resource law, he was already a lecturer there, and he took us in regulation. I have always known of his capabilities. I call him the distinguished professor of regulation. He was a deputy minister for the Attorney General's office and Minister for Justice. And he clearly exhibited remarkable dexterity in the law. Many of our issues, when we took them to the Attorney General's office, they were referred and assigned to him. And clearly, as for me as a student in the LLM degree level, and then as his colleague, Minister during the first term of John Dramani Mahama. And as a colleague in Parliament, responsible for the subsidiary committee of Parliament, and also a member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, one cannot cease to acknowledge and appreciate the mental of Dr. Ayine, Akurtinga Ayine. And so I think that the appointments are a demonstration of a masterstroke by His Excellency the President. All we can say is that we pray that Parliament expeditiously vet them, because John Dramani Mahama, the President, is working within a time frame to ensure that he puts his government in place for the research agenda to begin.
Very interesting. The two of them, John Jinapo and of course Dr. Kesela Tufosin, were basically the spokespersons when it came to the minority on those two issues. And I was suggesting that rarely do they appoint spokespersons to the substantive positions because of the idea of, oh, you have where you were talking, do it and let's see. Would that be a challenge for them?
No, that would not be a challenge. And again, let your observation. And if people are interested in knowing what John Dramani Mahama intends to do, they will glean it from what is happening in the appointments. There is continuity in the sense that John Dramani Mahama wants to leverage the experiences of his former ministers and deputy ministers, promote those who, in his view, executed their tasks very well, and give inspiration to those who he will pair with the ministers, who might be first-timers, that if you are motivated enough to support your minister, then the sky is your limit. So he's communicating in the appointment. One, he doesn't want to start afresh. He wants people who already have that experience, because he wants to hit the ground running. So he wants people who have that experience, who will immediately set to work, understanding the remit of their mandate and what is required of them. And two, he is communicating to those, and I know new faces will come in, first timers will come in, to tell them, look, watch the appointments how they are going. If you get to support your minister, if you get to work assiduously to ensure that we meet the reasonable expectation of the people of this country, in a future NDC government, or even within my government, you can be promoted to the position of the substantive minister. So don't be in a rush. Just work to support your minister. That's what he's communicating.
Well, interesting. And if you look at the three major things he's talked about, he said his first priority is to stabilize the economy, which goes back to the Minister for Finance. The very first thing they confronted was the issue of fuel, energy, and of course there's huge debt in that sector. There's a lot to do to stabilize that sector. And then the third one, everybody is interested in oral, goes back to the Attorney General. So these three ministers are very crucial for him to deliver. How much sway do they have? How much can a minister do in helping him deliver this?
You see, you have looked into the crystal ball. You probably are seeing the reasons why John Dramani Mahama made these first three appointments. Everybody is talking about the economy. The economy was the reason why NPP lost the election. John Dramani Mahama has said the economy is stupid. The research agenda will begin with the stabilization of the economy. What measures do we put in place to halt the free fall of the cedi, to reduce inflation, to reduce wastage in the system, to ensure that there's no recklessness, to mobilize enough tax revenue to support the budget, to close the leakages. What do we do? Is the economy. Who is better placed than a tax consultant to look at what are the tax handles that we need to deal with? John Mahama has promised to remove some taxes. What will be the impact of the removal on the overall revenue mobilization of this country? What are these other sources that can be exploited to make for the fall in the tax revenue as a result of the removal of these taxes? You need somebody who understands the tax regime very, very well. There's also a doctorate degree holder on economic policy, economic management and policy. How do we, what policy measures do we have to put in place, supported by the Ministry of Finance, that can promote growth and prosperity? When you join the Mahama has 4 years, and within the 4 years, we must see some perceptible signs of recovery. Who is better placed to do that than Ati Folsom? And that's why he has been put there. Now, energy. We have known that the NPP government have been using what in the olden days local drivers had been using to support their vehicles. Chalk. You know chalk?
Yes.
When the vehicle has no brakes. In those days, when you were driving to Kumasi around Angola, you find them carved and placed there and being sold. They helped the vehicles to stop. So that's what they have done to the economy. They've put artificial chocks to block the economy and the energy sector. And now that they are not in power, immediately remove those objects or those artificial things they have put, the economy and the energy sector will begin rolling backwards. I've said that lack of energy will result in catastrophic poverty because the industries will not work, water will not flow. The studies in the night and our educational system will be affected. Almost everything will be affected. I remember in 2016 when we were confronted with power outages in cabinet, John Dramani Mahama made a profound statement. He said, we have done so. He told us in cabinet. And even that statement found its way into the State of the Nation address. He said, we have done so. But I tell you, my colleagues, I will fix it. And by the end of 2016, he fixed doing so. Today we have the NPP, outgone NPP government, pleaded with the West African gas company, that is WAPCO, West African pipeline company, WAPCO, to defer maintenance of the pipeline so that after elections they could do that. Apparently they knew that they didn't have enough fuel stock. And so if the gas pipeline was being rehabilitated, that will affect the gas flow from Nigeria to Ghana and so bring about so. And the analysis has been to admit that periodically we've had so. So they simply pleaded with the West African pipeline company to defer the maintenance of those pipelines, the maintenance regime, which was supposed to take place in October. So the West African gas pipeline, interested in maintaining the integrity of their system, have said they will carry out a maintenance regime of the pipeline from 20th January to 17th February. Means gas will not flow into Ghana to the Tema enclave for the purposes of powering our thermal plants. Now we've also used the pipeline because we realized very early in the day that we were also going to bring our gas pipeline, our gas onshore, and also ensure that it powers the thermal plants around Abwazi in the western region. Now, we also did a reverse flow. If there was more than enough gas for the Abwazi enclave, we could use the West African gas pipeline and do a reverse flow. Flow our gas to Tema to complement what we will be receiving from Nigeria. That reverse flow too is not going to be available. Means that when we pipe our gas to Abwazi, that's all. If we have more than enough, we have to flare it. Now, the plants that we have installed in Ghana are multi-fuel or dual fuel, if you want. They can run on crude, light crude, or they can run on gas. When the fuel runs on gas, burning efficiency is high. You don't have soot formation in the nozzles, and so your maintenance regime is extended. When the thermal plants run on crude, light crude, light crude is heavy, and so there will be formation of soot, and the efficiency levels will reduce. So naturally, if you are going to run your plants on light crude, your output in terms of megawatts will reduce, and then your maintenance regime too will be extended. When you want to go back to gas, you have to shut down the machines and clean the nozzles to be able to change over to gas. Now, changing over would have not been a problem. The problem is that while very aware that the West African Gas Company or West African Pipeline Company was going to undertake routine maintenance on their pipeline, NPP needed to import fuel into the system. And so that if the gas pipeline was shut off for the purposes of maintenance, we could immediately switch over to the light crude. They didn't do that. They owe the energy sector companies within the value chain about $12 billion. So they couldn't import. Now they have lost elections. The new government under John Dramani Mahama has to face that challenge. The person who understands what has happened and who has been talking about it is John Jinapo. And I'm happy that immediately the president entered office, the first act was to call the energy sector stakeholders to discuss the situation and put John Jinapo in charge to ensure that they quickly and expeditiously come up with innovative solutions to the problem. I'm also aware of other meetings which were held with other stakeholders to ensure that as soon as possible we'll get crude oil supplies from neighboring countries, Equatorial Guinea and Nigeria, to be able to keep our power on for some time. So yesterday also, discussions were still underway to ensure that letters of support would be issued for these companies to bring in forward so that the government can pay them later on. Now, so you need somebody who understands it, the situation in which we are, who can avert the looming power crisis, to go to the ministry as quickly as possible, to put in structures and systems that can ensure that we don't slip back to do so as a result of the deliberate negligence or default of the NPP government in ensuring that we had enough fuel stock to continue the lights be on. So John clearly is the man to be, and he's been sent there to do that. Oral is a flagship of the John Dramani Mahama administration. We also the level of impunity we all witnessed the level of corruption. We all saw the wastage. We saw the thievery. We saw the stealing. Clearly, that was what necessitated the establishment of, first of all, the promise of oral, Operation Recover All Loot. Now, the first act of John Dramani Mahama, President John Dramani Mahama, as president-elect, was to establish a committee to begin tracking these matters. Now, the understanding is that when the Attorney General assumes office, oral will simply make available to the Attorney General all the files they have gathered as a result of their investigations into the rot and loot that was perpetrated against this country, and the Attorney General takes it up. And you need somebody who understands how the Attorney General's office works. You don't want guesses and surprises. You don't want internal saboteurs to sabotage any such attempt to recover all loot. You need somebody who already knows the people who work at the Attorney General's office, and who can be given a mandate with a sure belief that if you give such a person the mandate, he will not or she will not work to sabotage the assignment given to him. So, Dominic, he was there. He knows the people. He's worked with them. Those new guys who have come on, he will appraise them and see who can be trusted to do the work in the Attorney General's office. I was told 2 days ago by Professor Kweku Wafu Danso that this new administration would tolerate no misstep. No misstep. So you can't make a mistake.
Would tolerate no misstep.
Misstep, yes. No misstep.
I see.
So if you don't want any misstep or minimize the incidence of missteps, you need to put people who already understand how the system works.
Well, Alaji, which other people do you know will be appointed soon?
Well, it will be remiss on my part to begin to speculate on the appointment regime.
No, I didn't ask that you should speculate. Alaji, I'm asking, do you know for a fact?
Even if I know for a fact, I will not. I don't know for a fact. Let me say, put it that way.
Okay. But do you expect a lot more, because now the majority leader is gone, the leadership, the front bench? Do you think a lot of more of them will be affected by these who would have the privilege of serving in government? Do you suspect so?
I suspect 2 of them will join to Fulton.
2 more. Okay. And do you have any preference? Do you think that there are people currently within Parliament who can easily take up the leadership mantle and run it effectively?
Let me tell you what some NPP man called me and said. Oh, now we know that we were just talking about having the men. In fact, you have the men. He said, look at the appointment of the Attorney General. And you can count as many as 5 or 6 people who could have easily gone to the Attorney General's office. So, can you imagine? So, we have only been talking. In fact, you have the men. You have the men. So even you can rank your men and say, oh, this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So I say that to you. In Parliament, as we said, we can rank those who can be majority leaders, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. We can rank them.
Do you have a favorite candidate? Do you have a favorite candidate to be majority leader?
The fact is that, you know me, I'm a party person. I my interest is subsumed within the interest of the party. And I'm always cautious in putting up names of people who are capable on the media without first making my views known to the party.